So today's okay, so the last workshop was just like a general intro, and then we just did a fun kind of debate activity um as more of an icebreaker than really anything to do with actually really developing public speaking. So this workshop's going to be more focused on, okay, someone gives you a prompt and you have to make up a speech in 5 minutes. And you're like, "Shoot, well, where do I even start? I have no idea what I'm doing." And but we're gonna give you guys some tools basically to be able to do that. And it sounds kind of daunting, or it sounds kind of like a super random thing, but impromptu speaking is honestly such a great way to not only develop your public speaking very quickly because you're just going on the fly every single time, but you know things like networking, like actually just socializing with new people is, it's not planned, it's impromptu. So it can also help you with that. But yeah, we're going to be going over more structural items today.
Okay,
But
so
first,
we have the opening question. So, what do you consider to be the most important part of speech? Just drop that into discussion. And while y'all do that, I'm going to talk about what I think is the most important. So I think the most important thing in a speech is basically your passion behind it. And while this question is open to interpretation, because if you don't really care about what you're speaking about, then you're just kind of going to be there. You don't really care about it. And that's what we're trying to teach here at Teach, trying to help you find a passion. All right. Um,
confidence, passion, these are good. I
Yeah.
wonder if does anyone have any opinions about the talking? Does anyone have any opinions about like a certain section of the speech? Because I've heard people argue whether, the intro is more important, the conclusion is more important, or if it's just that content in the middle that really is important. Intro, tone,
right. Speaking with your mind and saying it confidently.
conclusion.
Intro, ending. I think what really matters is like cohesion in a speech, if that's the right
I
word. Like
like
it all
the
comes together.
I
I
like the
think,
recognition of the hook.
yeah, I think the hook is super important.
But I'm glad that most people here are definitely focused on confidence and enthusiasm because we've iterated over it so many times. It's probably the most important thing in a general sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Funny. I actually like that answer. Yeah, humor is like a really powerful tool. And I think a lot of us can be more hesitant to use it on the account of there's usually adults in the room whenever we're presenting stuff. But you'd
Yeah.
be surprised how well it works, even if it's like a 65-year-old teacher and they don't understand the random meme you've inserted into your slideshow. But
Okay.
obviously that's not the only way you can inject humor into a presentation. That's just an example. Please don't inject memes into every slideshow.
Okay, I
That's a
think
trick you use sparingly. All right.
yeah,
It looks like pretty much everyone gave an answer, which is like great.
awesome. Thanks for the interaction.
Yeah, it's really good to see you guys are thinking about these kinds of things.
Okay, so roadmap of workshop. So today we're going to go over prompts in impromptu speaking and how to answer them. Then we'll have components of a speech, basically like the structure. We'll talk about some devices that you can incorporate to make yourself seem a lot more engaging. Then we'll have an activity, basically a speech, and we'll give some feedback. Then we'll have a vote for next meeting's topic, and we'll have a poll up for that later. Then we'll go into our closing question to end it off.
And okay, here's the thing, guys. So some of you guys got by last time without really speaking much at all in our activity, which I'm not, it's like
I mean, it's okay.
Yeah, I'm a little mad. I'm not like mad at you mad. I'm just a little mad that you may or may not have put yourself out there in a public speaking workshop, you know? But today everyone will be creating a speech and giving it. And it doesn't matter if it's good. It doesn't matter if it's just one long string of ums for 2 minutes, right? Like when I did my first impromptu speech, I literally had in the middle I just froze up and stopped. And I was like, "Okay, I don't know what to say anymore." And it turned out fine. So that's the worst case scenario, and it still turned out fine, right? I want all of you guys to be mentally prepared right here to give a short speech today. What good, bad, whatever.
Okay.
All right. So first we're going to talk about prompts and impromptu speaking. So just understanding, if you compete or just at least for this workshop, what kind of prompts you might see. So the first one is like the simplest. It's a statement to complete or a question to answer. Something simple, something personal, something that you might see in one of those like timed essays that everyone hates. Uh so like a moment that changed my life is or why people are afraid to fail. Usually things that are fairly abstract, but pretty much anyone can develop an opinion and provide some kind of support for an argument. The second one, which we're not going to be going over yet, but we're going over the next workshop, is the quote. So a quote well, you guys know what a quote is, but a quote in impromptu speaking is usually an invitation to interpret. And well, I don't know if that's the best way to word it, but it's usually like whenever you see a quote in a classroom setting, you usually ask, okay, what do you think it means? And then you guys talk about it. Impromptu speaking with quotes kind of builds on that, but not only do you interpret it but you build some kind of argument using the quote.
Okay, relevant devices. So first we have an anecdote. It's basically a situation that you put in your speech to make it a lot more engaging. So like say you have the prompt like how can pain help you overcome, right? Or how have you overcame? You can only give so many hypotheticals like one does this and they become stronger or they persevere, right? So it would be better to like give your own story, kind of like, I fell off a bike or I almost got hit by a car by biking, but then I got back up and I kept on biking. I'm so much happier. And that just helps people relate to you a lot more. Next we have call to action. It's basically a stirring statement at the end of a speech and it sparks passion or desire. So those of you who are in entrepreneurship, they use that a lot in ads. Like you'll see buy now, try Sensodyne, it'll make your teeth so much whiter. Or when trying to make change for animals, like donate 10 cents here, the polar bears will be on their ice longer. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you might be asking, well, how do I put that in the speech? Um, it's not my speech isn't an ad. And you're right, your speech isn't an ad, but there's usually if you created an impactful argument, there's definitely something you can tell your audience like to do or to think about at least when you're leaving them. Yeah, Amber's right. For today, we'll be shooting for around 2 minutes, give or take. In competitive impromptu speaking, I believe at least at a junior high level, you'd be working with a time limit of 5 minutes. But there's no like minimum, which is something interesting with impromptu speaking. There's no minimum. There is a maximum. So we care more about you not rambling than, quote unquote, not saying enough. Iman, it's not. Oh, the hour. Oh, yeah, the class is an hour. I don't think she's talking
Okay,
about
man.
that. But,
Okay, vocal delivery, body language. So, disclaimer, we know we're on an online setting, so your voice might cut out or, feedback, and we can't really see your face. Well, we can't see your face, but we can't see like like if you walk around, we can't see that, but we're going to try to do as much as we can with what we have. So just some general tips. Make sure your voice is strong and you project your voice. This makes people respect you more. Also gives you confidence because when you talk like very quietly, then people are gonna see you as more quiet. They won't listen as much. Also include changes in tone to keep the audience engaged. Now, if I talk monotone the entire time, y'all are probably gonna get bored. You're gonna go to sleep. And yeah, I would fall asleep too.
Dude,
So
I'm gonna go sleep.
so try to vary it. Try to vary your sentence structure too. Don't use long sentences. All of yeah, just vary it. So also look above the crowd, like you're scanning, so you can address all of them instead of like
Obviously, that's
staring.
not as applicable
Yeah.
here.
Here, just
But if
stare
you're in
at
a
the camera.
classroom, yeah.
Here, just stare at the camera to like, people can kind of see you even though you're not really looking at them. Yeah, but when you are in a formal setting or in a classroom, make sure to look around at everyone, not just stare at the back. Also, use your hands slightly. I don't know if y'all will use this, and we can't really see your hands that much unless you want to put them in the camera. But given the chance, try to use them to like express yourself, but don't force it.
Yeah, some people it comes pretty
Naturally.
naturally. Like,
Like I'm using my
um,
hands now, but you can't see me.
yeah. But okay, and obviously for people that don't have much speaking experience here, this can be like a lot to think about. So again, don't worry about getting it all quote unquote right the first time. It's for now more important than anything that you speak in the first place, right? Than getting it right. We honestly don't care if you get it right or not. We're not going to dock a grade. We're not going to email your parents, your kid sucks at speaking, right? We're just here to see where we're all at, right? And then help you guys get better. Okay, now to the part where you actually the part where we actually help you guys understand what a speech looks like. So, this is this is not the structure that all speeches necessarily follow, but it is a good, very reusable structure for impromptu speeches. And yeah, we're using impromptu speaking so you guys don't have to do research or prep at home. Otherwise, we might explore other options. But first, you have your introduction, right? You guys are all familiar. You might use a hook here, get the audience engaged, or at least explain something about, like, some background information about what you're going to be talking about. Next is the roadmap. The roadmap is basically like you're telling the audience what you're about to tell them. And that might seem kind of, oh, yeah, we want you guys to use your camera, but if it doesn't work, that's that's like fine.
Yeah.
We're not going to get mad at you because your camera broke. But if you have it and it works, we highly recommend to use it because it just feels more natural for everyone. But back to the roadmap. So you're telling the audience what you're about to tell them, and that might seem kind of redundant, but it actually makes things a lot more memorable, especially if you have 3 points. Because, the whole rule of threes thing. So if you use a roadmap, your speech will just be more memorable. And especially for those of you that like don't have a ton of content, it kind of pads time, but it's not just padding. Then your 3 points. You can have 2 or 3, but we highly recommend 3. And they don't have to be like all standalone, completely profound points. And you guys, I have an example on the next slide that you guys will see on that. But that's the kind of the meat and the potatoes of the whole speech, which is where your argument is. Then your recap. So this one, in my opinion, is much more optional than the roadmap, but it's basically the roadmap, but again, where you tell the audience what you just told them. And if you do elect to use the recap, you're gonna want to make it different from a little different from the roadmap, honestly. Obviously, at least in structure, right? And then lastly, your conclusion. This is where you usually put your call to action. If you don't have a call to action, so a lot of people just restate their argument in a different way or end it off with some kind of highly memorable statement. Now, what these numbers on the right mean, the 1, 2, and 3, is kind of the order that we actually recommend you write your speech in, because at the end of the day, your intro and conclusion can be very cookie cutter, but it's very important to think about your points first. Even though yes, we talked about how the intro and conclusion are both very important to hook in your audience. At least from our perspective and an impromptu speaking perspective, coming up with content on the fly is the most important thing right now. And then you can think about, okay, what do I want to do for my intro? What do I want to do for my conclusion? On obviously the roadmap and recap, you can do certain creative things with them, but they're definitely not as important as the other three. So I'm kind of going on and on about the outline, but it is very, very important, at least for now, to follow this outline pretty closely because you're not going to have time to write a script on a piece of paper in 5 minutes before you speak, right? If you follow this outline and you have a general idea of what you're going to say for each section, that's going to be so much more effective. So this is my example of a quick impromptu speaking outline. Obviously, if I was actually giving this speech for real, I would probably add some more details, but this is just to give you guys a general idea. So let's just say I get the prompt. What is your favorite extracurricular activity and why? So for me, that's DECA, and you guys don't have it in intermediate school or junior high, but we discussed it a couple times. And DECA is a business club, basically. So for my introduction, since I just had to explain DECA to you, right? The audience probably doesn't know what it is, so I can inject a little humor, being like, yeah, the name really doesn't tell you that much. It's a very outdated acronym that they've just converted into a word, which is kind of silly. And then I explain what DECA is. Then I do my roadmap of my 3 points. So what my 3 points would be for here as to why DECA is my favorite extracurricular activity. So I came up with 3 different reasons. 1, practical skills. I developed presentation and networking skills, and I developed my business knowledge. 2, I found tons of opportunities like leadership training camps, community service projects, and I got to go to international competition, which is just an amazing opportunity in general. Yeah, that is what it stands for. It's not very informative, right? The reason it's called that is actually because distributive education used to be like the word for career skills. But yeah, now it's just everyone. It confuses everyone. We're still confused. Then my 3rd point would be community. So all of my fellow members are amazing. I can go to state competition and strike up a conversation with anyone, and the organization at the end of the day is boosted so much by the people that are in it. So I would give those 3 points. I would give a recap. Okay, so what did I talk about here today? And kind of recount them. And then I finish it off with a little call to action saying, join DECA, you won't regret it. So I hope that helps you guys get a better idea of what your 3 points might look like, how the speech all connects together. And your prompt is not going to be the same as this, but it will be very similar. So obviously I don't want you guys to copy me, but you can't copy the exact club because you guys don't have it yet. But it is good for you guys to have this kind of example to think about. And now we're going to move into the actual activity. So yeah, for the rest of the workshop, we're pretty much just going to be speaking. At least and then we're going to have a closing question at the end. So our prompt is, what is your favorite hobby? Don't put it in the chat. Don't. Just think about it. What is your favorite hobby? How has it helped you, and what makes it your favorite? So we went for a prompt that would be very accessible to all of you guys. I'm sure all of you guys have at least some kind of hobby, whether it's a school club or if it's just something you do at home. It doesn't have to be productive. You don't have to be doing community service hours and call that your favorite hobby. We probably wouldn't believe you anyways. It can be something super simple that has helped you, and that's just your favorite activity. So you're going to be prepping on your own for 5 minutes, and then you're going to have just about 2 minutes. It's not a hard cutoff. You can go under, you can go over, to present to just your group. So we're not making you present to every single person here. but we are making you present to a small group of maybe like 5 people.
Yeah.
We highly recommend, obviously, that you follow the outline that we just showed you guys
We can do it
and
again,
try to
please.
incorporate anecdotes and or call to action, which obviously for these hobbies, I'm sure you guys can think of a lot of different anecdotes and call to action options. So we're going to drag you guys into groups first, and then we will all individually put that 5-minute timer on for your prep, and we will just go from there. So if you guys all did great, just the fact that you did it is honestly amazing, because I think if I would be really uncomfortable personally if I was in your all's shoes.
Yeah, same.
We can just have a short discussion. I hope a lot of you guys gave feedback, or at least thought about the feedback that you received. Have a quick discussion. Drop it this in this discussion text. But I want you guys to tell us something that you want to improve on personally. That can be something that someone gave you feedback on. It might be something completely different. But something with your speech that you thought that you, not necessarily you wish you could have done better, but something that you want to do better next time. Because at the end of the day, we're striving for improvement. Saying less, that is a very common one. A call to action, conclusion, yes. Length, yeah. I think some common problems were definitely the ums and the length, which are common problems for pretty much everyone who, when they're starting out, like either too short or too long. It's something that, as long as you mind it every time, you will get better at it. It's almost like the tone. If any of you are musicians or athletes, there are certain things that just get better over time, like form, tone, things like that. You think about them and improve, but also when you're not necessarily thinking about them, you improve. It's a similar thing. Going into the points more, elaborating, yes. Transitioning better, that's a big one. And that's actually something that's a bit more advanced than you might think, is effective transitions. Instead of just saying first, second, third, or in conclusion, or to start, or something like that. But
Yeah.
Absolutely.
less hesitant. Yeah, these are all really good answers.
Yeah, like again, since it was all y'all like first time, pretty much your first time, that was like really good. And just like Emily's saying, pretty much like everything, it'll only get better with like experience and practice, and you'll be able to talk like you'll be able to give speeches just so eloquently and smoothly, and with very little preparation, and making it sound like it's like a story, and getting your audience captivated very soon if you just take every opportunity you can to like practice giving a speech, or just practice speaking in general, right? Even if it's like with your friends or your parents, like have this stuff in mind, because a lot of this stuff isn't only specific to giving a speech, it's to effective communication in general. So if you're able to practice that in life, you'll be able to build upon your speech skills, and you'll be able to sound like a professional speaker, like if you practice this stuff like normally. And it'll eventually become subconscious when you practice this stuff, and eventually, even when you hit high school, because like you guys all know Armand, right? He was like the senior guy who was here for the orientation, one of the orientation meetings. He's able to just talk normally and give speeches like that, like so eloquently and so like beautifully, and he makes himself sound like a leader, right? You'll be able to do that very soon, if you just like kind of practice this and think about it in your regular you know life.
Yeah, and you can pick up on things in regular conversation that the skill can also be incorporated. We're not just trying to teach you guys to public speak on a podium. We're not trying to like into a mic or anything like that. We're also just helping you guys with every facet of your lives that could possibly involve presenting. So for a lot of you guys, that is class presentations and academic competitions like science fair, but it also extends beyond that. You know, when you're meeting new people, it helps you become more confident in putting yourself out there and not saying something stupid, right? And it also just helps you like with expressing yourself.
Like I guess what I think about, especially when I think about what exactly I'm going to need good speech for, and this kind of applies to my life a lot, is getting ready for like college or job interviews, right? How exactly are you going to stand out among 1,000 people or even more than 1,000 people? Is you have to have good communication skills, and to be honest, not many people have that in today's like world, right? So, I mean, the fact that you're here, that you're starting now, is really important. It's a really good opportunity because you like if you start thinking about this stuff, you will be the person to stand out among like thousands of people because of your really effective communication skills, and the way you speak, because that is one of the defining traits of a leader, as we've stated over and over again.
Yeah, it's a powerful thing, y'all.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, I see people typing. Feel free to say stuff if you have stuff to add. But me and Ashton could probably keep each other in a tangent forever, so I'm gonna I'm gonna move past that for now. Okay, so actually, who's doing the polls? Cause can someone just
I can do a poll. Real
yeah?
quick.
So do first choice and then the 1, 2, 3, and then second choice and third choice, like 3 different polls for second, third, one, two, and then each one has 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we talked about this earlier, but another prompts that you can see in impromptu speaking is quotes. And next workshop, you guys will be giving a speech related to a quote. Obviously, because this is a little less accessible than favorite hobby in terms of prompts, we're letting you guys choose which quotes that you want to do, and we're gonna try to give you guys the quotes that you can think of the most stuff for, or something that you feel more comfortable with. So you guys just read the quotes right now. Think about what you might be able to say for each one.
What is the second one?
You're the other side.
Yeah, basically hear the other side. It's just Latin makes people pay
Oh.
attention because it sounds fancy.
I
Yeah.
read that wrong. I thought it said "hear the other slide."
That'd be an interesting speech. And remember, and I think a misconception that a lot of people have of quotes is that suddenly when the prompt is a quote, you're no longer allowed to relate it to your personal life. That's not true at all. If you can think of a way to relate one of these quotes to a personal experience or a part of your like day-to-day life, that's probably the best quote for you.
Yeah, another trait of an effective speaker is they're able to take a lot of topics and relate it to their own personal experiences, and then also relate it to general claims and experiences and ideas that apply to a lot of people.
Wait, Ashton, can you make another poll for their second choice, just in case we can't give them their first choice?
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
I see a lot of people in and for those of you, go into the polls chat. So above announcements, click on it, and then you'll be able to see the poll and respond to it. I'm seeing a lack of B, which is interesting to me, considering recent.
Probably the
I think it's
easiest.
very
Yeah.
well. I don't know if I call it the easiest personally, but
Yeah,
it's definitely very relevant to current events, I would say.
Relate to.
Oh my God. Which one is easiest and which one's most difficult? Definitely varies from person to person, depending on what you can think of on the fly. If you think a quote might be difficult, I encourage you to challenge yourself. But if you think of a really good stuff for one of them, then that's also fine. And you guys don't necessarily have to pick like right this second, and you can't change your mind later. Just make sure you have an answer on there within the next few days. So pick an answer for now, and if you change your mind later, within the next few days, that's fine. Oh, we had another slide for this. I'm smart. And the third choice, I mean, well,
Yeah, we don't really need that.
we're not gonna give you guys your third choice, hopefully.
And closing question.
Yeah. Yeah, while you guys are answering the poll, we'll do a closing question. So, drop this in the discussion text, just like the opening question. Has your answer to the opening question, which is, what do you think is the most important part of a speech, changed? If so, why? Or you can also say, if not, why? Because I think a lot of you might have the same answer as before. But go ahead and type it in the discussion. Yeah, and Iman is pinning the polls in the poll chat right now, so they'll always be there. Make sure you guys answer. At least for now. You think the intro is most important now? Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see, like, you guys will still have different answers for sure, and it's highly debatable. Which part is actually the most important? A lot of people will just elect for whichever one is most difficult for them or easiest for them personally. They all play their part, I guess, in the speech. To the 3 points, yeah, I think that's an interesting answer. Because you don't really hear that too often, but I would agree that even if they're not the most important, they're definitely very important. And a lot of you guys should try expanding your points more and not just think of it like show and versus tell, right? Instead of just telling people what your point is, which is something that you can save for your roadmap, show why your point supports your argument or show why your point is important. So, for those of you that put something like reading, why is it important to expand your vocabulary? Why is it important to relax more? For those you play a sport, why is it important to keep yourself fit? And if you guys incorporate that, the speech just goes up. You know, it's like it's the stonks meme. It just goes crazy. Yeah, and you're not wrong if you put a different answer than everyone else.
Yeah, there's
But
no
I
right
encourage
answer.
you. Yeah, I encourage you guys, if you really believe in your answer, to try and focus on that section next time, or that aspect, because I think some people still put confidence.
Oh, yeah, and this is sort of like a general thing. Whenever you're making claims, like I know the claims that like this is more important or this is more important, be able to like back it up. So give a reason to the claim. So a lot of people are saying, I believe that this is important because this. So that's great. Don't just say this is important, right? Because no one's gonna believe you just if you just say a claim, but people will believe you if you have a reasoning behind that claim.
Yeah, I'm seeing you can also edit your previous messages. I'm seeing the change from Samantha. Call to action is usually important because the point of speech is to make a change, which is an argument that I really enjoy. Because you don't necessarily need a call to action to make an impact, but it is very, very important to make an impact
Yeah,
on people.
I agree. Yeah.
People can listen to you, but if they walk away and don't change anything, then
Yep.
that being said, change isn't necessarily go home and sign up for a website or anything like that. Change can just be the way you think. Change can be
It can just be a
how
mental.
you feel. Yeah. But these are really good responses. I'm enjoying these responses. And with that, we are going about 17 minutes over time. So if you guys need to go, you can dip. If you guys want to keep discussing, that's also good with us. But that pretty much marks the end of the workshop for now. Don't forget to answer the polls. Bye.